Welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. This podcast is for those who seek answers from above, guidance and magical inspiration.
Immerse yourself in the realms of magic, angels, fairies, unicorns, dragons, and so much more. I'm Kirsty Jandrell, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And I am Kate Lachman.
Hello and welcome everybody. It's great to be back, and we are so excited today because we are joined by our wonderful guest, Dr. Eve Agee, who is the founder of the Transformation Coaching Academy. So welcome, Eve.
Thank you so much for having me here, and hello to everyone.
Hello, Eve, and welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. We are so thrilled that you're joining us today. Thank you so much for being here with us. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, about your amazing work in the world, so that those who are listening can get to know you a little?
Oh, sure. Thank you. And it's such an honor to be here. So I've been a coach and a healer for over 22 years, for a long time. And I'm also an anthropologist and a mother and a best-selling author. And I have been training people to be coaches for about 14 years with Transform Coaching Academy. And it's an online ICF accredited training program that's been ranked as one of the top training programs for coaches in the world. And I feel very, very blessed to get to coach people, get to train people, get to help empower people. This is a time in our world where we really need to raise the consciousness, and that is part of my mission, so we can build a better future.
That's beautiful, Eve. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And as you say, the Transform Coaching Academy was set up many years ago. Could you tell us a little bit about the impetus for that, please? Because of course that was a very different world back then.
Yeah. When it happened, honestly, I was coaching. I'd been a coach for quite some time. I had actually finished my PhD in anthropology, and I'd worked for the White House. And during that time, got trained in coaching. Before then, I had trained for many years in shamanism and other energy practices. And this was a long time ago, like 25 years ago. And anyway, my book was coming out. And I mean, I'll just tell you the version I don't normally talk about, but because this is about magic, I'll share that. My book was coming out, and I had just written my book. My son was very young, and I didn't really have plans to do anything else really big career-wise because my son was just about 5, and I worked part-time. And so my book was coming out, and it's with Random House, which is a great publisher, but they don't do a lot of promotional work generally. And so I literally was about to go see a client. I sat down on a chair and in my home before I went to my office and asked for divine intervention. And I didn't specify for what. And then I drove to my office. My client came in and she said, "You have got to teach me how to do this. I've had more, she said, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal self-care and empowerment over the years, and nothing has helped me as much as what I'm doing with you. It's been amazing." And I had other clients ask me to train them as coaches before this, but I just knew, I don't think I shared earlier, but I used to teach at the University of Virginia. I worked for the White House and also served in the education department as a White House expert. So for me, if I were going to train people, I knew it would take a huge commitment because I'd want it to be really excellent if I was going to put my name on it. So I knew how busy she was. She had actually a 7-figure business. She was a mother of 5. She was super busy. I knew this because she was my client. And I said, I don't have time I can't commit to that right now. And she said, "I will volunteer the next year of my life to help you put it together. That's how badly I want to learn this. This needs to really go out there in the world." And so I said, "Think about it." for a few weeks, but I remembered I just asked for divine intervention and I hadn't specified for what, literally 10 minutes beforehand. So she ended up thinking about it for 3 weeks, and she also got a lot of divine intervention. This is what we were meant to do. So we actually spent a year and a half putting together Transform Coaching Academy, and we trained. She went through everything herself and got her own clients. And, we made sure we tested it to make sure it would work for her clients. And then I launched it a year and a half later. We spent so much time and energy on it. And the first cohort, which was a long time ago, I guess 14 years ago now, they just got amazing results. They started getting clients. Their clients were having huge breakthroughs, and it just continued on. And I've been really blessed to get to train hundreds of people, including yourself, Kirsty, to really be able to do amazing, empowering work, raising the consciousness on the planet. So it's been a huge blessing.
Well, I'm kind of speechless now. It's such an amazing story. Wow. And just literally 10 minutes before, sorry, I need my few minutes to gather myself. Wow, that's an amazing story. Wow, thank you so much for that, Eve. And you've mentioned, things that are happening, and especially now that they're happening here on this planet, and thinking about all this process. As we are, as humanity in this time, transitioning to the next stage, how would you describe, how can coaching help people with the challenges we are facing at this time? How can it influence us? How can it help?
I think it's really important because coaching is all about raising the consciousness, creating a better future, being more present. It's about really finding, opening up your mind in new ways and finding new paths forward. And we know, we're in such a crisis, multi-crisis, meta tragedies right now on the planet. And it's clear, I think, to almost everyone that we've got to find new ways forward. And so coaching, I believe, and one of the reasons I'm so committed to training coaches to be really successful and really excellent is because coaching really does help. It helps organizations, it helps people, it helps individuals be able to find new ways of operating, new ways of thinking that are actually more aligned with their values, that are much more abundant and inclusive of all. And so it does that in a lot of different ways. Part of it is helping people with mindset and neural pathways, and really, there's a lot of the neuroscience within coaching that is incredibly powerful. I mean, that alone can be life-changing for people, because we've often been socialized to really just focus on the negative and what's not working and criticize ourselves. And so when we start actually getting really curious and looking at those patterns and those behaviors and those beliefs, and we have the opportunity to transform them into something much more inspirational, much more transformative, it can literally be life-changing, both personally, but also for many others. And then also with Transform Coaching Academy, we really focus a lot on energy. I bring in shamanism and various energy practices. So we're helping people also transform on an energetic level, which is, I think both of you probably are really experts at, is super powerful. And also coaching does have a huge focus on the future, and creating, really one of the foundations of coaching is helping people be really present and then create what they want in the future. And we certainly need to do that in the planet these days, because right now I think most people are feeling really hopeless and scared and, really unsure of what's going to happen. And what we need are leaders, and clearly those leaders have to be all of us. They have to be normal people. Because unfortunately, we do have some great global leaders, but we have a lot of global leaders that aren't doing the best job at creating a sustainable future for all, for sure. So, the more we can actually really start to focus on the possibilities of creating a future that is sustainably, both from an environmental standpoint, as well as in other kinds of ways, social justice, abundance, those sorts of things. And these are obviously going to be, we're talking about huge shifts in ideology, huge shifts in systems. But I think everyone pretty much realizes now that's what it's going to take. And I think coaching actually plays a really unique role in helping people and organizations, governments, find the ability to do that and to stay strong and to lead from a place of vision and courage and inspiration rather than from a place of greed or fear.
So beautiful. Thank you, Eve. There's so much in there that we could unpack. Yeah, I think that I love that you mentioned the focus, yes, on personal transformation, but also that focus on abundance and creating a future, a golden future, a beautiful future. And I also wanted to thank you because I have been blessed to have trained with you as one of your coaches. And it's affected my life, not only professionally, but personally to such a degree. So I just wanted to extend gratitude to you for that. And interestingly, you came to me at a point in my life that was so needed. I was going through a personal transformation, a dark night of the soul, when I lost my mum and stepdad, and it was in this point in my life that I just so needed that support and that validation that there was something worth focusing on for the future, and that actually we have this power to positively affect the future as individuals, but collectively as well. So for me, I just wanted to say it's opened up a whole world of inspiration, opportunity, soul satisfaction, and that deep knowing that we can positively affect our world. So thank you, first of all. And of course, as you mentioned, we do need coaches, we need healers and guides more than ever. So if someone were really drawn to become a coach, what advice would you have for them, Eve?
Well, I would certainly say follow your heart. I mean, if anyone's drawn to do anything, I really recommend people follow their passions in their heart. Life is short, and we need each person to contribute in the way they're meant to contribute to get to this, next level on a planetary level. So if someone's drawn to coaching, I recommend definitely getting well trained. These days, I would recommend getting trained through a program that's accredited with the International Coaching Federation. In many countries, it's essential these days. And even in countries where it's not yet licensed, everyone feels it's moving that way as the coaching field and industry grows. So would certainly say, get well trained, know what you're doing, just like anything, like, if you're becoming a healer, if you're becoming an accountant, if you're becoming a lawyer or a physician, like, would I go to an accountant who doesn't know anything about accounting and wasn't trained? She's like, I'm going to swing it like on my own. No, of course not. I would want to go to someone who's well trained. And the same thing with coaching, because it really is a powerful skill set, and you're helping people on very deep levels. And I think it's really important to honor that and to develop one's craft. And the more capable someone is and the more skilled someone is as a coach, the more successful they're going to be financially, the more they're going to be able to help people on much deeper levels, the more fulfilling it's going to be. So I would say go and get training. And then at that point, start looking at, okay, who do you want to work with? All those things. But the first step is like really getting training, developing the skills, and investing in yourself. Because if you invest, compared to university education, coaching, even though for ICF accredited program, it's going to be, a few $1,000s, it's still way less expensive than going to university. And you don't need a university degree to become a coach. And so, that's something people can make back pretty quickly, if they start getting well-paying clients, and just investing in oneself, focusing on personal growth, and really, I think, at the core, believing in yourself and knowing you are worth investing in. And it's your life, and it's important to do what you want, even if you feel Like, what are people going to think of me? And I think that's a big one. A lot of people think like, oh, my life's not perfect. How could I be a coach? Oh my gosh, we would have no coaches if everyone waited for the perfect life, because there is no, that's like a total illusion from like 1970s TV shows or something, right? Life is messy, it's challenging on so many levels, and really, but being able to be authentic and present and focus on healing and creating awareness is what, those are the kinds of things that make someone a really good coach.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that, the truth behind it, because I found that as well, that I've met many, many people that they would train and train for years, but they would never start their own practice because they always feel it's not enough, it's not enough. So I love that you've mentioned that. Again, coming back to our world, I suppose I'm very interested and curious how you see the things and the events, how they're playing out now on the world stage and the future. We're in the midst of so many huge changes, as we've mentioned before. Do you have any hunches or maybe intuitive insights, or how do you feel or maybe see how the things may play out?
So, yeah, I mean, we're really like at this precipice, right? We're on the edge, and we've been on the edge for quite some time, but it's getting more and more intense. And so we're right here in this moment that could be this amazing awakening and an amazing global transformation. And, what's happening is there are forces that don't want that change, doing everything they can to stop it. And unfortunately, many of those powers that be do have a tremendous amount of power in the world. So, the good news is there are certainly more people on the planet who want this true transformation and this true change. And people are awakening to their purpose and contributing in really powerful ways. I do believe that, it is still really within possibility to change and create a planet that has a sustainable environment, that has a sustainable economy, and that has a really different experience to it, right? I think as far as exactly how that's going to play out and how much time that's going to take, I don't think any of us know right now. However, I don't think it's necessarily going to be super quick. I think we're in this a big transformational process. And so I do think it will take quite some period of time. My intuitive information I've gotten is that as challenging and dark as it looks right now, we still have the ability to actually create a very successful, sustainable future on this planet. And it will take a lot of strength, it will take a lot of courage, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of change to do that. So that is challenging. It does seem that, that this is really something we can do. And even though it would have been nicer if we would have done many of these pieces in the last 20, 30, 40 years, when it was very clear that environmentally we need to make these changes. And of course, from a social justice and economic, disparity issue, we need to make these changes. Now, it's something that seems like 2023, people are even more aware. It's like, they're polling the people who were sort of in denial of all of this a while ago, or like, no, actually, this is, we've got to do this. And so it does feel like, in a way, humanity is waking up. And, often it may take a few technological breakthroughs and innovations to really create some big changes. I also believe right now, all the healing that's happening on the planet is extraordinarily important, because, there's so much right now, so much trauma, so many challenges. And there's also more people, I believe, committed towards healing right now and really feeling called to heal themselves and help heal others than ever before. I also intuitively get that we are literally, our planet is surrounded by angels. by literally millions and millions of angels and light beings from throughout the universe and beyond, other universes as well, who are here to help us. And all we have to do is really connect with that spiritual support. And by connecting with that spiritual support, each one of us who's here as a human can actually create a lot more empowerment than we normally could on our own, because there's this tremendous amount of support as well. And I think that's really important for people to remember. Energetically, things are happening at a much more rapid pace than normal, and things may transform much more powerfully and quickly than expected.
Thank you, Eve. Wow, there's so much wisdom in there, and so much so much light and hope and positive expectation that and I think, Kate, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think we both have the same view that, you know, we're moving to this, it's going to be a challenging however many years, but that we are moving to something better and more sustainable and ultimately unified. So thank you. And I love the fact that you mentioned angels. Obviously one of our favorite topics. So yeah, and I know I personally feel that too, that we've got so much support, and it's just so lovely to have that reminder that we just have to ask, and you know, that magnificent support is there. Thank you for that. Moving back to the title of our podcast, we've mentioned the word angels, and I wanted to pick on another word in the title of the podcast, magic, which of course is so general and can be interpreted in so many different ways, Eve. So I'm wondering what this word means to you, and given your definition, whether you could possibly share about any of your experiences that you might term magical, please.
So that's a great question. I'm not sure the exact definition of magic. I'm sure there are many, but when I think of it, it's, you know, really things that are manifesting from the spiritual or energetic realms, and then manifesting often in a physical way, right? And so when we connect energetically or spiritually and manifest physically, to me, that's always very magical. And so, yeah, let me think about a time with magic. I'm a big lover of magic and have been very, very fortunate to experience a lot of magic in my life. Starting from when I was quite young, actually, when I was I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but when I was a teenager, I was really into musicians and music. And my friend and I would always go to concerts in different places. We would travel for them. And our whole thing was getting to meet whoever the rock star was. And I would always manifest it. I would always manifest, like having drinks with Sting and, you know, like all these different, the Go-Go's and all these different people that were our idols. We would always manifest. And we kind of figured out how to do it eventually. And, you know, just always manifested getting to like hang out and talk with these people. And just in general in life, I mean, I've been really blessed to experience a lot of really amazing magic. And some of it's been super huge, and some of it's been small, but very significant. And one of the things I think is important for magic is for people to realize that they are magical, and that is in our ability. And to really appreciate all the different magical things that are happening in our lives at one time. My husband and I met in a very magical situation. I had been guided to move to Washington, D.C. And at the time I was finishing my PhD. I wanted to move to Bali. And I planned to just be a healer and write on women's empowerment for the rest of my life. And this is a long time ago, like 1999. Anyway, but I was told that I was meant to go to Washington, D.C. to learn how to sort of work with energy and healing in a very intense setting. So I ended up moving to DC, and I had like trained in shamanism and a lot of energy work. And so that's actually where I ended up working for the White House. And I also ended up meeting the people I trained with for coaching and my coaching certification. So, but I was like shown my husband, I really didn't want to go. And this is, stubborn and not a great way to use magic, but I'm just going to give this example. And I was like, hey, I was getting woken up and meditating, being guided to move to Washington, D.C. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do that and not move to Asia, I want to meet my soulmate. And so I started seeing my soulmate and seeing all that and getting more and more information, because I kept on like really just meditating on it and everything. But I was told I was supposed to wait till a certain period of time until we would meet, which was like, it was basically a year from the time before I moved. So anyway, I moved to Washington, and I knew, I heard what I heard with his first two names, his first name and his middle name. But I thought his middle name kind of sounds like it could be a last name. So I thought it was his full name. So I kept on asking everyone I would meet, particularly I was told I would meet him through some friends of mine from grad school. So I'd be like, hey, there's this guy and his name is this, and he works like this, he looks like this, he's into CDs and music. And I knew all this information about him because I was just like getting more, meditating on it all the time. And eventually we met at my friend Tim's house, and everyone there knew. They hadn't realized it was him, but they all knew because I've been talking about it for so long. Like, let me know if you meet this guy, So we met. He's now my husband. We've been married for 22 years. And what was really cool about that was I was at the time, like I mentioned, I was working for the White House, and then I was training and coaching. And when I finished, I started my business as a coach and a healer. And I felt super awkward about doing that. This was like in 2001 and 2000, and people were not that into stuff like this. It was like maybe before the internet, or before the internet was big. I mean, I know that totally dates how old I am. But anyway, but then I just started getting so many clients. I was already kind of coaching people and doing healing work before I started my business officially. But then I started getting so many clients, and people were telling, like friends of mine in DC were telling people this story, this magical story of how I met my soulmate and my husband. And I just kept on getting so many clients because of it. So it created all this like really great magic. Like I ended up just my business just filled with clients, partially because of that, also because my clients were getting really great results. But it was all very magical. I didn't advertise. I didn't do anything besides have an office. And just sort of all of that magic attracted a lot of goodness to my life.
Wow.
Wow. I'm again speechless.
Thank you.
Speaking of magic, wow, that's such an amazing story. Wow. And coming back to another word in our podcast, angels, I wonder, do you have any specific encounters or maybe angelic events that have touched your life? I'm wondering, what is your relationship with the higher self, the higher realms, with angels?
So it's funny. I don't know if I've ever told those two stories publicly, like on a podcast or anything recorded. So, yes, I have a lot of relationships with angels. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm very guided. And I was guided as a child. And then at one point I cut it off. And I believe it was because of some trauma I had experienced. And then I am extremely, extremely fortunate and have been guided by angels like so powerfully for the last 24 years. I'm sure I was beforehand as well, but I wasn't quite as aware of it. And so first of all, I'm so thankful. And I think, like I mentioned before, there are literally millions and millions and millions of angels and light beings here who are here on the planet to help us. I'll share a story about how I got reconnected with angels and guardians and guides after I had cut that off as like a young teenager. So I was living in West Africa and working as an anthropologist, and had was 22, had just finished college. And the country I was in was on the verge of civil war. I'd lived there once before. I moved there when I was 20 and had gone to school there. And it's like a place where people are just amazing and so kind and generous. And so I was back there 2 years later after I graduated, and there was a democracy movement that was trying to happen against a really repressive dictator who had been in power for over 30 years. And unfortunately, the forces of the dictator were shutting it down, and they were doing it really violently. And I was in 2 situations within 2 weeks where I was almost murdered. And the second one, my boyfriend at the time, we were about to be murdered. Had been captured, and there was no mistake with me. There were very few people who were European or American in this country. So there was no mistake when they had captured us, what they were planning to do. And we were about to be murdered. And like I said, at that moment, I was not very spiritual at all. I'd kind of cut all that off. And I said silently, I put a big shout out. It's like, God, angels, if anyone comes and saves us right now, I promise I will spend the rest of my life helping the world be a better place. And I immediately heard the words to tell our captors, and they let us go. And we walked away from it. It was pretty powerful. It was pretty amazing. And I thought, oh my God, what did I just agree to? And I didn't know what I had agreed to in that moment, but I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life here doing that. And I'm sorry, I've actually spoken about this on video before, but I don't normally get so emotional. But I think it's just how grateful I am, and how fortunate I feel. And, sometimes my guides tell me that how fortunate I am because I am deeply connected, and that many people on the planet are not. And, I think a lot of people feel really isolated and feel really alone and feel without direction and not knowing where to go. And, there are so many light beings and so many angels here to help us. And, my wish is that everyone can actually connect with that and can have that kind of relationship and have that kind of guide. I mean, I have sort of a daily relationship, like I'm in constant conversation with my guardian angels, and I'm extraordinarily blessed in that way. And there's been times where I haven't followed them and made horrible, horrible mistakes in my life. I mean, things that have been devastating, right? And but I was always guided. It was just I didn't follow whenever those kinds of things happened to me. And actually that moment, I had been guided not to go out when we went out, and that happened. But because of some other circumstances and some people that we wanted to walk home, we were out in that situation. So yeah, and I also think people are actually being protected and helped by angels all the time, even when they don't recognize it. And so the more we can do to really attune our consciousness to that, the energy of love and caring and compassion and light, then the more we can actually get connected to that. And it really makes a tremendous difference in life.
Oh, wow, Eve, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so moving and deeply personal, so thank you. But what a beautiful validation of the power of love and the power of the light and the light beings and the angels. That is just truly moved me. Thank you. And I'm sure our listeners. And yeah, and I mean, I think one of the qualities that we hope, and you absolutely have dedicated your life to the betterment of humanity. And I mean, imagine if everybody did that, what a different world we would live in. So I just wanted to honor that, the fact that you've actually kept to your promise and absolutely devoted your life. And it just serves as a beautiful, as I say, validation and truism that of the power of love, the power of light. And one of the motivations for this podcast for us was to focus on those energies and especially the frequency of joy. Of course, being up there with love and compassion is one of the peak states that we can access as humans right now. So just wondering, what are your favorite ways of accessing joy, and why you perhaps think that it might be important for us to connect with joy as humanity right now, because sometimes people can think of it as maybe a little bit of a trivial thing, or a luxury almost, but I think we possibly feel that there's something more powerful behind that. So just wondering on your thoughts, please.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I completely agree. I don't think joy or bliss or any of those energies are frivolous. I think they're really essential. And for me personally, I mean, there's so many things. Dancing always just brings me amazing joy. Being in the water, I love being in water, or being on the water. It's, for me, really just kind of connects me into that joyous flow state, whether I'm swimming or paddleboarding or, just getting to be near the water and look at it. Yeah. And then movement in general. Yoga, walking, music, all those, and then being with friends, with family, with other people, and laughing, and just that, and being in nature. So many different ways. I think joy is incredibly essential right now. Basically for us as humanity, it's really important for us to raise our consciousness, and consciousness, higher levels of consciousness are actually very joyful. They're, things like enlightenment. It's really about joy, and compassion and love and all these different kinds of energies that are really inspirational and uplifting. And so particularly right now, where there's just so much heaviness and so many tragedies and so much challenge and violence and stress and difficulties in the world, it can be so easy for anyone to become really depressed, I think, and to not be able to lift their energy out of that. And that, like, staying in that energy of, the darkness, the depression, the stress, we know from a neuroscience perspective that we are not going to find the solutions for a better future from that energy. That's the sort of energy that creates fear in our brains. It literally limits possibility. It creates tremendous stress. It literally creates a lot of stress in the body and health. And so the more we can actually focus on joy, I mean, there's actually all this great neuroscience research that show, like, even people facing really challenging diseases, that if they can, and there's been some neuroscientists who've done this themselves, like they've been diagnosed with challenging diseases, and then they'll just like watch comedy shows for like the next year, and they miraculously get better, and they got better because they allowed themselves to be in that joy, to laugh, to produce all those like amazing endorphins and, serotonin and neurotransmitters and neurochemicals and all these sorts of things. So it's incredibly important. It's actually, like this pivotal bridge for us, I think, to get beyond what we're currently experiencing, at least as far as on the collective, into a much better collective future. And personally, we know, I mean, right now, there's, I think almost everyone has trauma and challenges. So many of us are healing such deep, deep trauma and wounds. And that can be really difficult. And sometimes it can almost feel overwhelming as well. And so the more we can use like tools like joy and laughter and presence and fun, the easier it is for us to heal, whether it's emotionally, physiologically, energetically, on all different levels. So I think it's incredibly important. And I love that you've got that in the title of your podcast.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I found it, and even in the spiritual worlds, the joy is often forgotten as something being seen as not serious, maybe even a bit ignorant. How can you be like that if we're supposed to be just floating on the clouds? So I love that you mentioned that, and especially neuroscience behind it. I know so many people that, and I watch regarding different approach, how differently the life goes on with that. And I would personally, I don't know how was your approach here, but personally I would, because I would be always kind of crazy joyful, but I didn't realize that. And often when people see me, maybe she's a bit crazy or she's a bit, but just in recent years I've discovered that this is a very powerful tool. And that's how I was always raising the vibration in the room. I was always raising my vibration with joy, with this even crazy laughter or whatever was coming. And that was something that I was channeling, that I couldn't stop myself. And I just recently actually realized that this is actually very powerful. And especially with things happening in the world, I always wonder how to share that. So I'm gonna cut out this part of the podcast and I'll be sending it to everyone what you just said, because it is important, especially in the heavy times, to actually bring joy. Thank you so much for that, Eve. And anyways, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with us, and joy, especially joy, because I can feel that a lot. And I wonder, what is the best way that if anyone would like to get in touch with you, or maybe you're planning something that we could join, would you like to share with us, please? How can we get in touch with you? Or maybe there's some goodies in the bag for us waiting.
The next Transform Coaching Academy starts in February, and it is going to be a really powerful program. We already have some amazing people enrolled, and the first 15 people who join get some very special fast acting bonuses, including a free ticket to a retreat with me in Greece in 2024, which will be just delightful. I'm so excited for that. And the program is always just filled with a truly remarkable group of people, and the training is really comprehensive, and people have so many just changes in their own life, as well as grow professionally. So if you or anyone you know is interested in it, check that out at transformcoachingacademy.com and join us for the free masterclass that's mentioned below.
Wow, thank you so much, Eve, for that. That sounds amazing. And Kirsty, you're the proof in here, so we'll definitely check that out. Thank you so much, Eve.
We actually have an upcoming masterclass called Are You Meant to Be a Coach? And it's a free masterclass. It's a training that has a lot of really, really valuable content in it about how to create a successful coaching business, how to get started. And it's actually got a tremendous amount of goodies in it. And that's going to be on February 8th. And maybe you all could put a link below in the comments on how to join that. Again, people can register for free. And to get in touch with me, other than that, you can go to transformcoachingacademy.com. That's transformcoachingacademy.com. Or to my personal website, which is eveagee.com. That's eveagee.com. And both those have contact pages where you can get in touch. So thank you.
And I just wanted to add, if you have any desire, if anything is pinging in you to say, oh, I'm slightly curious about being a coach, follow that energy, because it's meant for you, and it costs nothing just to explore. So but yeah, and Eve, you truly are a gifted teacher, so thank you. I felt so blessed to have been taught under you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind.
And thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing all that joy, magic, and some really personal transformative experiences with us. It's been just wonderful to have you join us. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such an honor. Yeah, thank you both for hosting this amazing podcast, and thank you for everyone who's listening too.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode. But until then, fill your life with joy and magic and laughter. And angels. Until next time. Thank you. Bye.